How to estimate a construction job. So, have you ever wondered what goes into creating an estimate for a construction project? What if it's a small project? What if it is a huge project? Well, in this episode, we're going to go over the different components that you're going to want to consider when building a construction estimate. Have you ever wondered what separates a winning estimate from all of the others? Well, what about having some secret sauce in developing your construction estimate? Understanding the components of an estimate are going to be really important. We're also going to want to retain accuracy in our estimates. But most importantly, we're going to want to really understand the outside influences that may impact the cost and time associated with your estimate. So if you're ready to jump in and learn everything about the secrets of estimating, then I would love to join you on that journey. So when we're understanding an estimate, understanding the components of the estimate are going to provide us with that outline and structured skeleton that we need to produce an estimate. Now, this is so very important, especially those of you who don't have a lot of construction experience. We still have the capability of being able to produce an estimate. You have to know and understand how to do calculations. You have to know and understand where you're getting the costs of things. And when we talk about outside influences, that's when it's going to change into knowing and understanding the construction industry. But for now, we can stick with processes and systems and be able to develop our estimates in a way that provides a baseline for us to work from. Some of the important things that will go into an estimate, of course, are going to be the labor that's provided. And when we talk about labor, we're not talking about a shovel. We're talking about skilled labor. We're talking about the different disciplines that are going to be involved in the project. We're also going to be talking about materials. Not just materials that are going into the project like sheetrock or toilets or wires, but we're also talking about materials necessary for us to perform our work. So that could be something like scaffolding. And then we're going to have a cost category for equipment. Now, sometimes this doesn't always include the nail gun that we use on every single project. We might use a miscellaneous calculation for that. But we do want to be very clear about equipment that is expensive that we're going to be using, like a backhoe. And then we're going to establish differences in that equipment of whether we own that equipment or whether we're having to rent that equipment. Now, just because we own it doesn't mean that it costs us $0 to have it on the job site, because with our luck, that equipment is going to break down. So if that happens and I have to rent a piece of equipment to replace it, I need to know that I have coverage in my budget for that. Now, if I own the equipment and my equipment works well through the whole project, then I have the opportunity of scoring a really nice profit on this job. But all equipment is going to have maintenance, fuel, new tires necessary. And so having all of that in the comprehension of when we're putting the estimate together is going to be really important. Other components that we want to consider in the development of our estimate are going to be things like contingency, markup, escalation, inflation. These are all different components that require different considerations. These aren't just all tack-ons that we add to the end of our total budget number. So when we're looking at contingency, we're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at how much risk is associated with this project. Is it a relatively low risk project, or is it a high risk project? And if so, I'm going to include a higher contingency. Are there a lot of things on this project that I don't know? Are there unforeseen conditions anticipated? then I'm going to put in a higher contingency. That contingency is going to work as like a savings account or as that safety net that you get when you're stocking money in the bottom of the drawer. Okay, we don't want to have to touch the contingency. And so when we're developing our thoughts on the estimate of what a contingency is, we're usually doing it based off of a percentage of the total cost of the project. Now, when we're looking at something like escalation or inflation, those are things that are going to carry us through contracts that range over a multi-year contract. You could add escalation to a project that you're doing tomorrow and will be done in 1 year, but really the escalation and inflation applies more to projects that are going to be long-term projects where we have to consider the potential for rise in costs over a second or third year or fourth year involved in a project. And then when we're talking about markup, this of course is the contractor's favorite. This is where they're going to be making their money. This is going to be the profit of the project. We really know that the profit comes in the capability of the contractor and how well they can perform their job and how they perform the means and methods of how they do it. But that percentage of profit is a guesstimation of how much additional money they choose to make on this particular job. So when contracting is going well, and usually during the summer everybody's got a lot of work on the books, then the markup might be a lower percentage rate. But if you're a specialty contractor and no one else can do it like you do, then having a higher percentage rate for your markup is going to provide a higher profit. And this is going to be how we use the markup process. Understanding components of an estimate is important, but we also want to make sure that we're being very accurate and very detailed in our estimate. If you miss something, it's not like you can go back to the owner and say, hey, I only counted 10 doors. I didn't realize that there were 14. Okay, that is going to be on the contractor. And so making sure that we're very careful in our analyzation of calculation of materials and products that are going to be used on this project is really, really important. You're going to be held to a standard. And that standard is that you know what you're doing and you've committed to that through the signature on a contract and through the submission of this particular estimate. So in order to be able to provide the scope of work for the deliverable that the owner is wanting, you've put a number together that identifies that you can do it for that amount. So when we're looking at our estimate, having accurate numbers is going to be really important, not just for the owner or client, but for the contractor to be able to have a measure on the progress of work versus how much money they have left in order to be paid, so that they know that they don't have a whole bunch of work left to do at the end of the project with very little money coming in. When we're determining how to build an estimate, we need to know where to find the information. So we're going to lean on the contract, our specifications, and our drawings. I call this the holy trinity of construction. And the reason why this is so incredibly important is because this is what is going to be defining what goes into an estimate. There's so much more than just black and white products, equipment, labor. There are outside influences that we need to consider. What type of work is taking place during the winter months of this project? What is the allowance for change orders? Can I put overhead in the change orders? What percentage is going to be allowed as profit on the change orders? All of these things need to be considered and understood when we're putting our estimate together. And so when we're looking at the documents that we're using for this estimate, we're going to want to understand the level of completion of these documents. Are these going to be conceptual documents that don't have a whole lot of detail or information in them? Or are these construction working drawings that we can expect to be somewhere between 80 to 100% complete, where we will have less risk involved when we start estimating this project? When using these contract documents, it's so incredibly important to know how to maneuver through them and how to read them. So being able to read construction drawings will be essential for a construction manager who's wanting to produce an estimate. Also, knowing and understanding how specifications support and collaborate with the drawings is going to be essential in being able to pull information from the words in order to be able to apply a cost or a budget to it to include in your estimate. Make sure that you understand how to read drawings and how to be able to work through the holy trinity of construction. So we've gone through the components of an estimate. It's just not dollars, it's also numbers that we're going to see in terms of cost and time associated with your estimate. We want to make sure that our estimates are accurate. We want to make sure they're complete and that they're thorough. And we want to identify and reduce the amount of risk associated with our project. And so if you think it's for you and you're ready to become an estimator or want to learn more about construction management, make sure to visit our website at Construction Management Online.